Donald Trump already faces 3 criminal indictments, 2 federal cases, one in Florida and the other in Washington, D.C., and 1 state case in New York. But this time next week, Donald Trump could be dealing with his 4th indictment in 5 months. This time, a state case in Georgia. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, who's been investigating Donald Trump's attempt to overturn Georgia's 2020 election results, is expected to present her case in front of a grand jury in just a few days. And judging by the scene outside of the Fulton County Courthouse, Atlanta law enforcement is ready. The Associated Press reports, quote, Fulton County Sheriff Pat Labatt has said he's in meetings every day to prepare for a possible indictment. In anticipation of potential charges, his deputies erected barriers last week along the block in front of the main courthouse. The street was closed this week and parking is prohibited on nearby streets. Those measures are to remain in place through the end of next week, Labatt's office said. While Fani Willis's case against Donald Trump overlaps with Special Counsel Jack Smith's January 6th investigation into Donald Trump, there could be one key difference. Fani Willis could bring state racketeering charges against Donald Trump and some of his allies. Georgia's version of the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, or better known as RICO, was modeled after the 1970 federal law aimed at taking down the mafia. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution reports, quote, RICO is often used to try to prove that a legal business was being used for illegal means. And in the beginning, the law was used to prosecute those involved in drug trafficking or organized crime. But in recent years, prosecutors have also applied it to government officials accused of using their offices for personal gain, such as those named in the indictment against various former and current Atlanta public school officials. In 2021, Fani Willis retained John Floyd, a lawyer and expert in racketeering, shortly after opening up her investigation into Donald Trump. Reuters reported at the time that John Floyd was, quote, hired recently to provide help as needed on matters involving racketeering, including the Trump investigation and other cases. Fani Willis has also openly said that she's a fan of RICO.
I'm a fan of RICO. I've told people that. And the reason that I am a fan of RICO is I think jurors are very, very intelligent. They want to know the whole story. They want to know what happened. They want to make an accurate decision about someone's life. And so RICO is a tool that allows a prosecutor's office and law enforcement to tell the whole story.
RICO charges could allow prosecutors to charge Trump's allies with breaching voting machines in Georgia. The Guardian is reporting that Fani Willis now has enough evidence to charge Trump's allies with computer trespass felonies, according to 2 people briefed on the matter. Joining us now, Amy Lee Copeland. She is a criminal defense attorney and former Georgia federal prosecutor. Amy Lee, thank you for being here. How does Georgia's racketeering statute apply to the Trump case?
Thank you, Jonathan, for having me tonight. The Georgia racketeering statute applies to the Trump case because, as you noted, it's broader than the federal statute. Georgia has 43 additional state crimes that are named as racketeering predicate acts or bases for a racketeering charge. Included in that list is the computer trespass felony, and that is what the allegation is that happened in the voting machines in Coffee County, Georgia, where the GOP officials down there went in and looked at what was going on. They did it not once, not twice, but 3 different times. And so that is one potential predicate act that, even though it occurred in another county, as long as one overt act for RICO occurred in Fulton County, it would stick in terms of venue in that county.
And Georgia's RICO statute, quote, requires a pattern of misconduct as shown by violations of 2 or more crimes specified in the statute. These predicate crimes can include committing or soliciting false statements, forgery, computer trespass, as you just mentioned, and influencing witnesses. So given all that, Amy Lee, what challenges could DA Willis face in pursuing Georgia RICO charges against Donald Trump and his allies?
Sure. It is a broad statute. It is by statute supposed to be very liberally construed, but there could be defenses that people simply weren't acting in concert, that they had gone rogue, or that they weren't interrelated, or that everyone was sort of doing his or her own thing. That seems difficult given the activity, though, that we know about when Mr. Giuliani goes to meet with Georgia legislatures for 3 different times, when I believe Ms. Powell, Sidney Powell's foundation, assisted in the payment for the Coffee County voting machine breach. That could be a difficult defense for him because, again, it is a statute that is very broadly construed and covers a wide range of activity.
Mm-hmm. The New York Times reports, Amy Lee, nearly 20 people are known to have been told that they could face charges as a result of the investigation. If Donald Trump and his allies are indicted, will each individual be charged at the same time?
It's likely. There is one notable exception, though. Burt Jones, the GOP, the now lieutenant governor, and who was a GOP candidate, and Miss Willis was disqualified from his case last summer. But the Georgia Prosecuting Attorney's Council will assign a new prosecutor to look into that. But likely everybody will be indicted together, Jonathan.
One more question for you. From what you know of the case, are there other charges that a potential Georgia indictment could include that we haven't seen against Trump yet?
Yes. Georgia has a number of statutes that talk about election interference in Title 21 of the Georgia Code. That's solicitation to commit election interference, conspiracy to commit election interference, tampering with ballots. Those have been part of the Georgia Code for a number of years, and those could be standalone acts independent of RICO that the state could bring against Mr. Trump.